Welcome to Mulberry Conversations, a podcast for business leaders and job seekers, where we discuss insights and strategies with leading professionals to help you navigate the ups and downs of today's competitive job market. Today's conversation is brought to you by Mulberry Talent Partners, a full-service recruiting, temporary staffing, and executive search firm offering talent advisory services to individuals and organizations serving the Pacific Northwest and San Francisco Bay Area. Today, we are joined by Tana Thomson, Chief People Officer and Executive Committee Member for Vista Capital Partners. As a senior HR leader for over 15 years, Tana has extensive experience in leadership coaching, performance management, training and development, compensation and total rewards, culture development, and employee relations. Today, she shares how you can leverage transformational leadership to inspire your employees and work towards a shared vision to build high-performing teams in your organization.
Greetings, Tana. I'm so happy to have you here with us today. You and I have kind of crossed paths for years with our connection to Xenium, and now you're in another role with an organization, Vista Capital Partners. And so we recently just reconnected. We were just talking about our passions and about what really drives us and what we're excited about, and then that turned into us being together today. I left our conversation when we met for coffee, like so inspired and energized. And it was like a natural topic and conversation. And you have such passion for this topic, which is transformational leadership. And you've also adopted those principles into the organization that you're working with now. And so you have an opportunity to see how it's impacted the population and the organization and how it's lifted people up. And I was just so inspired. And you and I had a pre-call to this conversation, and literally that could have been our conversation. I mean, we just went on and on. And usually those talks are, I don't know, those prep calls are 5 or 10 minutes. Ours was like, I think it was 25 or 30. But anyway, I think that just captures how much, how exciting this topic is. So I will let you take it from here to talk a little bit about what you've created and what you're working on.
Great. Thank you, Lauren. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Yeah.
And we did have a great conversation, and I'm incredibly passionate about people and organizations and helping build outstanding workplace culture. And so I think transformational leadership really is about inspiring employees and working towards a shared vision. And so I think that inspiration, motivation, psychological safety, I think a lot of it comes down to trust and empowerment. And I think it's really at the core, and that really lends itself to building high-performing teams.
Absolutely. And how have you seen it work in your organization?
So I think it starts with a strong workplace culture. And so it's that feeling, or we call it the vibe, really, when you walk into the office, how employees are treating one another. And we are really, I think, aligned on our core values. And we've integrated the core values into our daily conversations and all of the employee experience. I think benchmarks, that shared vision. For us, it's creating happy and prosperous clients, creating that experience. And the same is true for our employees. So really putting the employees at the forefront. And I think in order to create that wonderful client experience, we have to create that internally and really see our employees as clients. And that's really how I view it in leading the employee experience. And I think really everything rises and falls on good leadership. And there's a difference between management and leadership, but transformational leadership, conscious leadership, really, to me, is that next level where people can really, I think, thrive, align with their strengths, be given the autonomy and trust to go do their best work, and great things will happen. So it's really about assembling high-performing teams that are inspired towards a common vision or purpose.
So in your organization, you've been with your organization for how many years?
Just 5 years. Yeah.
Just 5 years. That's a long time. It's a long time in the sense that what you created. So when you arrived into your new role, the leadership was already, from talking with you, the leadership was the kind of leadership and organization that would be receptive to
The
what we're
foundation.
talking about, the
Yes.
foundation,
Yes.
right?
The belief around how to lead a team towards a shared goal and create something remarkable.
And was that part of when you were interviewing for the position? Was this conversation part of your interview process?
Yes, I think the CEO shared with me his vision around employee experience. And I could tell when I walked in the door that there was something unique and special about the organization. I've consulted with hundreds of clients, and you can quickly walk in and get a good pulse and a good feeling about the chemistry in an organization, how things are working, just that feeling that I would describe. And that essentially is culture. And so he had shared some of that vision. He actually spent a year doing a culture project where he researched a bunch of thought leaders on the topic and put a white paper together and developed, I think, reaffirmed the core values, really made it a point to integrate into day-to-day employee experience and how we interact with each other and our clients, and then created the 8 things that matter most around what he thinks was most important to create a culture that's built to last.
And the 8 things that matter most are everything we're talking about.
Everything we're talking about. I think aligning people with their strengths, working towards a common purpose, getting people in the right spots. I think, leading with purpose, the communication, that perception of progress, that people know what to expect and where their path is going. At Vista, we're really, I think, focused on being a career destination. And so we're trying to do things that I think align with our mission and can create that world-class employee experience. So folks that align with our values, I think with any employee that's going out to look for the ideal workforce, I think oftentimes you want to find an organization where your own values align with the company's. And then it's easier to, I think, be passionate about the work and that shared purpose, and really see how you're making an impact there. I think people ultimately are looking for that as much as job fit. They're looking for that culture fit, because we spend a lot of time at work and folks want to be able to come to work and bring their authentic self.
2 points that are completely different. One would be people want to feel good.
They do.
They don't want to feel bad. They want to feel good. They want to feel safe, like you mentioned, safe and just to be able to thrive. And so when I walk into, and you do too, I know this would be true for you too, which is you walk into a restaurant, or you walk into a boutique, or you walk into, a business, and you can feel it right away.
Exactly.
And there have been many times when I've just left a store or an establishment because it just didn't feel good. I just didn't want to be there. And so it resonates with all of us all the time, even when we meet people that align with us or they don't, not that, just really about that feeling. And people tend to, in terms of what is your gut saying to you, something isn't adding up for me. And so some people act on it, some people don't. But I think that idea of walking into a store and how you feel is key. It's so, so important. The other question is that how many organizations, not how many like by the numbers, but what percentage of organizations do you feel have this mindset? The one that you have within Vista Capital Partners?
I think it's fairly unique. And I think folks are kind of, I think, getting on board. I think HR is transforming. I think there's a need for HR to continue to be more strategic and a thought leader. And I always say, just to kind of back up, I've trained a lot of HR professionals in my time. And I always say, I'm a leader first. I'm a business partner second, and I'm an HR practitioner third. And so you have to understand the language of business, but we're in the people business, we're in professional services, and a lot of companies out there in the people business. And so that is our biggest asset. And we need to invest in that asset and build something remarkable and unique where people are happy to come to work every day and they can thrive and be the best versions of themselves. And so there's a lot of intentionality at Vista, and I bring a lot of intentionality to it, and it can make a very large impact. And I'm not sure many organizations are making the investment in the role and seeing all the benefits of that long term that really carry over. And so I think HR is a strategic partner. It is the employee experience. I often say HR is tasked with a lot of different responsibilities, and there's a lot that they're juggling. And I think at the more basic level, it's around the compliance and the dotting the I's, crossing the T's. That's must happen. But for me, the real fun stuff is creating just an outstanding workplace where people are happy to come to work. We can create something unique and remarkable, and they can tell their families about it, and it helps them lead a full, fulfilling life. That's ultimately my goal, is helping create this amazing workplace where folks can be their best and use their gifts in service to others to create something bigger and better, and all the while leading fulfilling lives. And I focus so much on development too. I think a lot of times people get in careers, and if there's not a linear career path, folks can get stuck. And in my mind, we're always developing and growing. And even myself as a leader, the work is never done. There is always something to do. And it's like, what's most important right now? And so really creating that culture of development and growth. People want to grow. They want to develop, they want to evolve. And that pursuit of excellence, or pursuing excellence, is one of our core values. And to me, that's about development. How do we continually get better? How do we lift each other up? What am I passionate about? I'm also a big fan of first break all the rules, leading with your strengths, because I think you're going to get way further along in your journey doing work that aligns with your strengths, your unique strengths, and then finding a complementary partner, whether it's a project or a team member, really doing the work to know, what am I passionate about? What comes really natural to me? And so I do a lot of work on strengths-based leadership and coaching my managers on that as well.
It is so great to hear you talk about this topic, because it's just so inspiring, and all the employees are benefiting greatly. And it also shows up with all of the relationships that are part of what Vista Capital Partners is. It shows up in those relationships with your clients, in your, not with your employees, but with your clients and all the other partners that you work with. And so people can feel the heartbeat of Vista all the time, right? One of the things that Mulberry is very similar, in the sense that our goal is for our candidates to thrive in their lives and in their careers, right? And to help them along that journey. With our clients, same is true. We want them to utilize our resources to help them build strong teams that fit for the organization and fit for them. So that's always top of mind, because that's really what's important. And Mulberry being a relational organization and not a transactional organization sets us apart. That's kind of the core of who we are, and people feel it all the time. So it's really great. It's nice to have
I've definitely felt that working with Mulberry and you. There's that energy there, and that strong prioritization around the individual and creating that positive experience. I definitely think that reflects in your brand.
Oh, I'm glad to hear it. That's great. When you joined Vista, the company already, or the leaders already had this mindset, right? And so there wasn't a situation where you needed to influence them, right? Also, I'm sure there's been influence that you've, moved forward because what you talked about earlier was this, it's constantly evolving. There's always ways in which we can make an impact, right? Now, there are so many HR leaders that don't have that opportunity to really push that influence, or there's organizations that talk about all of these things, but in practice, they're not really providing the resources for these organizations to kind of do what you're doing, right? There's a retention piece, which is such a hot topic today. The retention piece, and also, career growth is another one, right? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. So really, I think one of HR's top jobs is to attract, develop, and retain top diverse talent. And so that has been sort of my North Star there. And so the attracting piece, I think, helps with our brand and our ability to recruit from a vast network, and being really clear on who we are and what our value proposition is. And then I think I've really focused the last couple of years, it just goes in different points depending on where we're at with growth, or what we're trying to accomplish. But development and retention are top of mind right now, and that career destination, and knowing that the job seekers out there want to be developed. They want to find that home where they can thrive and create an outstanding career. And so we've done some career pathing internally. Even though we are small, we look where we can expand jobs, create career paths within roles, build a leadership pipeline. And there's various ways that I've done that. And I think it all starts with training your managers and getting dedicated managers. And so I've built out some manager training. And we've also got our leaders and managers, they're offered leadership coaching, in addition to me providing coaching and a development plan for each of our employees there. And one of the things I like about First Break All the Rules is not everybody may want to climb up the corporate ladder, and that's okay. We need both superstars and rock stars, referencing the book. So folks that want to become experts in a particular role and function and be a world-class client service associate, for example, or they may have aspirations of being on the executive committee. It's not a one size fits all, and you need to take an individualized approach to development and really understand what your employees care about. And so I think the more that I can arm the managers with tools in the tool belt, so to speak, the more they can tailor and customize for each employee. And one-on-one meetings are really just, they're essential. They need to happen. And that really is time for the employee and manager to connect. And so those should happen at a minimum monthly, and the employee should really drive that agenda. And there also should be some focus on the longer term development. There's short-term development goals as well as long-term that they should be working towards. And so if the manager can help them work towards that and give them feedback and coach them along, it'll make them feel like they are progressing in their role and not stuck or stagnant.
So what do you say? Like, let's imagine that you were hired to be a leadership coach for the leadership team at an organization. They're, struggling in some areas and they really wanted to get a look at it in a fresh way. And they said, well, this sounds like a lot of work. This is expensive. There's so many initiatives and that kind of thing. What would you say to that? Or would that be a common response? What do you hear?
So I need to understand the leadership vision as well. And it all starts with the senior leadership team and the CEO, where the vision is. And if they see value in creating a great workplace through employees, then I can help set up a framework to build that. And it all starts with, again, the senior leadership team, the management team getting very clear on the vision and purpose and core values. And then how do we integrate into the employee experience? And then it's building out a great management team. It's creating systems, but really all of it is very relationally based. And so all of it is, let's inspire teams to work towards this shared goal or purpose. And then let's go really hard at building trust and aligning people with what they do well and letting them go do their work. That's part of the thing about transformational leadership is it's inspiring versus controlling. So we have adults, we want to extend trust and autonomy and let them go do the work. So if we hire carefully for folks that align for the core values and the specific job and provide the adequate training and support, we can let them go do the work. And be there and provide, resources and opportunities along the way. But it starts with that vision, and then you can build the structure and the systems within that. And so I think you've got to get the right people managing and leading. And I think management is a combination. It's managing the tasks and making sure the work gets done, but it's also inspiring and motivating others to do their best and to work together effectively as a team. And so just some foundational concepts, or what's got to be there, is that trust and psychological safety and that relationship focus. So you've got to invest, you have to connect and build the relationship first before you can have straight conversations when people know that you're invested in their development. And so psychological safety gets thrown out a lot, but it really is important. And I see it as part of trust. And, everything rises and falls on leadership. Trust is the foundation of any solid and sustainable relationship, and it means different things to different people. And so I think it's really doing the work internally to invest in those relationships and build that high trust and being able to have those authentic conversations with the goal of growing and developing.
In terms of what would your response to be? This sounds like this is going to be really expensive to.
I think get a great HR leader. And have them build out a plan and set a budget. And I can guarantee you the ROI is going to be there. The cost of turnover. And for high performance team, your high performing employees will do 4 to 5x the work, and they should be rewarded and provided with growth opportunities. But I think it's all about building high performing teams. And so I can share the ROI on that at each level. And so I think often what HR professionals get wrong, or even managers, is it all starts with good hiring practices. You've got to get hiring right. And I think some people are more skilled and equipped at hiring than others. And often past performance is the best indicator of future performance. But getting really clear on what does success look like in that role? How can we make sure that we get them going right out of the gate and they feel included and there's a sense of belonging? And that's where DEI comes in, building an inclusive culture. How do we make sure I assign them onboarding buddies? What does their first 90 days look like? Let's do check-ins. Let's make sure they can ask for what they need. And so it's all about the lens of that employee experience. And at each milestone, really understanding what they care about and making sure we can deliver, and looking at really through the eyes of an employee, or the viewpoint of an employee.
And so it doesn't stop at the onboarding, the 2-day onboarding, or the 1-day.
No, it's a couple months. I would say 90 days and then a 6-month check-in. But the manager relationship is so critical that they're having those consistent one-on-ones. And one-on-ones should happen more frequently right out of the gate when somebody's starting. So they need to really be sure on what matters, and they can get the job specific roll down and know how to ask for what they need.
Yeah. So it's really great to hear you speak about that, because people are talking about that onboarding experience and what that means for everyone.
Yeah. And Lauren, if I could go back to the retention piece, I'm a big fan of Gallup and Gallup surveys, and we provide manager effectiveness surveys twice a year as part of their performance reviews. I'm a big proponent of what gets measured gets done, or gets attention. And so we create really scoring on a 5-point scale about, the 6 or 7 Gallup questions. My manager cares about me personally. I've gotten feedback in the last 2 weeks. My managers assign me stretch opportunities. I have opportunities to grow and develop in my role. I would recommend Vista to other employees. So we've got questions there, and then we have open-ended, and then we actually incorporate that into the performance review, and there's a numerical rating there. And so I think it becomes, being a manager here is a big deal.
A big deal.
Yeah, I think we take it seriously, and we know often from Gallup studies, and other folks may serve as informal mentors or managers, may lead the work, but ultimately we're putting that task on the manager. But generally speaking, you've heard the term that employees typically don't leave companies, they leave managers. And so we want to do everything in our control to create that ideal experience.
I think too, what you're saying too is lifting that manager up, and managing people you're creating a very different idea of what a manager is, like from where it's been to where it is now. And the investing in managers, my husband is Intel. So he goes, people would be, and this is not just Intel. This is like, people would be promoted because that's the next thing you do. But they didn't necessarily want to be a manager or to manage people. They're better as an individual contributor.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And it's like there wasn't a fit there. It's just sort of like, that's what you do. If you want to grow with the company, here, you're going to be a manager. And that's what people aspire to be. But there's so many different ways to be effective in an organization. And and to create those, but also to have a roadmap of the paths that people can take.
And manager, the number one thing I look for, obviously they need to be competent and credible in the role and respected by the team, but they have to have a desire to lead others.
Right.
And they have to have emotional intelligence.
Sure.
To me, that's a non-go or no-go if that's not there. Having that desire, and really the best managers know how to balance support and accountability, and when to pull which lever at which time.
And to use their coaches, and as opposed to just making a decision and I was like, oh my goodness, and really utilize, like, talk through, like, this is what I'm thinking of doing. And really that's that collaborative piece and that trust piece you're talking about all the time, which is so important. And so I wanted to ask if you have anything else you wanted to add, number one, to our conversation. Number two, I would like to hear about the books that you are reading or have read that have made the most impact for you in your career and what you're doing right now in your work.
Wow, those are great questions. So as you can tell, I'm really passionate about transformational leadership and HR's opportunity to really lift up as a senior leader, as a strategic leader, and make a big difference in organizations. And I think the time is really now, where there continues to be competition for top talent, particularly in professional services in my world, and the ability to adapt and innovate and build this ideal workplace that could be hybrid, that could be flexible, that creates a great place to work for all. One of the goals we have here is creating a great place for women. We have sort of our second round of DEI goals, this inclusive workplace, and just a more evolved version. And I'm a huge fan of both Brene Brown and Adam Grant. A book that I'm reading right now is Hidden Potential. And I am really passionate about helping unlock potential in everyone. I really feel like people are sold short. They sell themselves short. Sometimes our systems and biases really box people in, and people are capable of way more. So I get really fired up and I think motivated by helping others see potential in themselves and building that confidence. So there's so many great books. I try to always have a book or two I'm either listening to on my commute or in the morning, but Hidden Potential is one I'm reading right now. I'm really into performance optimization too. We've done a lot about well-being and engagement here and invested in bringing in different workshops and topics on nutrition, stress management, sleep, just because I think you have to take care of yourself in order to be at optimum performance for your team and others. So that it all starts with that self-care piece. And so what does it look like being a professional athlete, so to speak? So looking at building that out, but there's so many great books. I love Patrick Lencioni. Five Dysfunctions of a Team is a classic. I think that's great. Daring Greatly, Brene Brown. I said First Break All the Rules. Strengths Finder's great. I'm a big fan of Carnegie. So How to Win Friends and Influence People. I think the people skills really matter. And one of my colleagues said the other day, getting really good at the soft skills, because the soft skills are essentially the hard skills. There's so many great books. I'm just thinking of a few right now. The Leader with No Title, Fierce Conversations, Crucial Conversations. Those are just some of the many. I'm sure there's other. I should put together a list.
When we talked, you talked about the confidence code.
Love the confidence code.
Right.
Particularly, it's focused on women and some of the confidence issues that many women face. And the reasons why, just from childhood and growing up and social norms and expectations and how to break through. I like Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In book too. And again, just how do you realize potential and bring out that confidence so folks can live their best lives, whatever that is for them. So I think I really get fired up about helping folks, like I said, break free from any like self-doubt and providing that support and encouragement.
Absolutely. That's just so helpful. And it's so helpful to, our audience to hear about the opportunities they have to learn more through these leaders in these books, these authors. I'm going to ask for a list, if you would.
Sure.
I'll put that together and email that to me, because we're starting on our website. We're starting, a book club or books, books, and they're all going to be focused in this area. And it would be great to have your list as part of our launch.
Awesome. I'd love to provide it. And just one more thing I think I would say in closing is, as a leader, there's a lot put upon us, or high expectations, which there should be. What's the word? With great power becomes great responsibility in any leadership role. And I think it's upon us to continue to evolve and develop, and to continue to have that humility and know that we don't have all the answers, and just continue to listen and learn from others and hold up that mirror. So self-awareness, which is a piece of that EQ, is so important. The work is never done. And so whether it's taking a seminar, a podcast, there's so many different forms of ways to develop, just making sure you're carving out that time to invest, because your employees will be better for it and you will be better for it to do that, and holding up that mirror. And with a lot of these books, it may be repetition at a point, but something may stick. And so I would say take one thing or two things.
Yeah.
And I've done that over the years, and even through organizations. I was a part of Vistage for 10 years, a leadership group, and I've been in other leadership forums and cohorts. And I always try to take one or two things and look at, like, how do I create value for those that I'm serving? And something will resonate, and then you just continue to build upon those things.
Wow. That really is perfect way to end our conversation, which will never end, by the way. But there was one thing I'm going to just jump in with a final, because it came to my mind on my notes from our conversation, our initial conversation. You talked about professional athletes, like was it something about the way you look at your employees?
Yeah, I really think there's a lot of similarities to whether you're a professional athlete for a sports team or in a workplace. I really want to view our team like that. We hire the best and we invest and develop. And in order for them to be their best selves, whether it's personally, professionally, it's that self-care piece. And so, I'm a big fan of just peak performance. You look at, I think, there's 1 Minute Manager, or Atomic Habits is a great book about, routines and discipline. And so really getting, again, that self-management piece, your own house, in order to be there for others. And so you've got to have that discipline and practice, and then you have more to give. And so when we've done well-being surveys, we do quarterly well-being surveys around engagement and just ensuring folks are able to live a full life outside of work. They have work-life integration or balance. Their manager can support them in a way that is helpful. There may be peak workloads, but the manager can help provide support there. And so I think really dialing in that self-care piece, whatever that is for the individual. And it starts again with nutrition, time management, healthy relationships, setting boundaries, all those things. And so focusing on what you can control will always give you the best chance, I think, for being more effective or fulfilled in whatever you do.
And you, in our conversation, you referred to your employees as athletes.
I do
think about them in that way. And that to me was like, wow, that just hit home. And thank you for that.
Thank you, Bet. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for joining us today. This was, again, another fabulous conversation with you. And I really appreciated having you on and having the opportunity to really talk about all these things, all these different practices and books, and just to hear how you are making such a difference for so many people. It must feel so good.
Thank you, Lauren. It was a pleasure being on. And yeah, like I said, the work is never done and sky's the limit. I'm really excited for the future of HR and really taking organizations to the next level.
Yeah, great. I'm grateful to you, and we'll have more conversations, I'm sure.
Great. Well, take care.
Yeah, you too. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us. To dive deeper into today's conversations, please visit us at mulberrytalent.com, where you can find additional resources and conversations, learn more about Mulberry, and see our complete service offerings in specialty areas including human resources, administrative office, finance, accounting, payroll, and operations. And don't forget to subscribe to Mulberry Conversations on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform.